Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Hare
kripa
Krishna Hare Hare Ram
sindhubhya
Ram
vacha
Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare
patitanam
Ram Ram Hare Hare
pavanebhyo
Krishna Hare Hare
vaishnavebhyo
Ram
namo
Ram Hare Hare
namaha.
Hare Krishna Hare Hare
Anantakoti
Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare
vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya
Ram Hare
vacha
Hare Krishna Hare Hare
patitanam
Ram Hare
pavanebhyo
Ram
vaishnavebhyo
Ram
namo
Hare Hare Krishna Hare
namaha.
Hare
Anantakoti Vaishnav की
Ram
जय.
Ram Hare Hare Krishna
नमाचार्य
Hare
श्रील
Hare
हरिदास ठाकुर की जय.
Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Ram.
Yashomati Mataji.
Is she there, Mataji, in the call?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Are you hearing me? Mataji?
Yes,
Am I
Mataji, we can
audible?
hear you. Yashomati
Oh,
Mataji, we can hear you.
okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. श्री गुरु महाराज की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Yashomati from Chicago. Once again welcoming all of you to the mid-morning Japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session and giving your valuable time and association to us. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Sri Caitanya Bhagavat. May I know who all have joined this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Neetu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much for joining Mataji every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day and giving your sweet association to us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. The Shashla Prabhupada. This is Preeti Vilasini Devidasi from Atlanta.
Hare Krishna Preeti Vilasini Devidasi Mataji, Danvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining and giving your beautiful services every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, so glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirti Sundari Dasi.
Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari Devidasi Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Mataji for joining every day and giving your sweet association to us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga and all assembled devotees. This is Shashi just joining from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shashidhar Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much Prabhuji for joining every day and beautiful chanting. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to the Bhakti Sangha Japa group. Today we are so fortunate to have her grace, Phaneshwari Laxmi Devi Dasi Mataji. But before we will start our session, I would like to read Srila Prabhupada's quote for today, March 16. Everyone is being controlled by God, but a devotee is so exalted that Krishna says, I wish to be controlled by you. This is Krishna's position. Vrindavan, March 16, 1974. So today we are very fortunate to have her grace, Sri Phaneshwari Laxmi Devi Mataji, to enlighten us on this topic of Srimad Caitanya Bhagavata Adi khanda, chapter 17, verse 50 to 53. Thank you very much, Mataji. Dandvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening us on the topic of Sri Caitanya Bhagavata. Now I hand over the call to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, very eagerly waiting.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so very much. Can somebody put the verses on the screen? It's easier if it's somebody else puts it up. And can you guys hear me? I put my headphones in, so it's clear.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So start with the pranam mantras, and if somebody could put those verses on as we're chanting. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajeev Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Thank you all so very much for giving me this opportunity. Hopefully I can share a little bit about my thoughts about these verses that we are reading today. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tats Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So the verses we're reading today are verses 50 through 53. And excuse my reading, I'm not that good at Bengali, so I will do my best. Prabhe Prabhu Bale Gaya Yatra Saphala Amarayati Kshane Dekilana Charana Tomara. The Lord said, my journey to Gaya has become successful the moment I was able to see your lotus feet. Tirde pinda dile se nistara pitru gana seha yare pinda deyatare se jana toma dekilai matra koti pitru gana se kshana sarva panda pai vimochana. If one offers oblations to the forefathers in a holy place, then the forefathers are delivered. But one delivers only he to whom the oblation was offered. By seeing you, however, millions of forefathers are immediately freed from material bondage. 53. Athaivatir danahe tomara samanate de o paramatumi mangala pradhana. Therefore, holy places are not equal to you, for you purify even the holy places. So in these verses, excuse me, I just get my notes up here. So just a little bit of a background as to where these, what's happening right now in Caitanya Bhagavat. So in Caitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has just gone to Gaya in order to perform the Shraddha ceremony for his father. And as he was there, he meets Ishvara Puri, who is his spiritual master. So when he sees him, he becomes completely overwhelmed with emotion. And quote then says these verses that to be able to be in the association of a pure devotee is beneficial, is so beneficial because they themselves bring these holy dhams with them. So as I was looking through these verses, a couple of thoughts came to my mind. And, my class, how am I going to say this? More about realizations that I had as I was reading these verses. So, as I was looking at these verses, I was looking at two different angles of vision. First, and the position of the guru, and one is the position of the disciple. And what does that mean exactly? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in these verses, he references certain verses in the purport. One of the verses that he references is this one, or this came to my mind. Okay, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Translation: according to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the kripa of devotional service. So this is the position, this is our position. So we are fortunate enough to be one of those who has had this seed of devotion planted within our hearts. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, millions of universes. I mean, think about this, millions of universes, innumerable living entities. And out of all of that mass of infinite living entities, we have been blessed with the merciful glance of the spiritual master who has given us this Bhakti Lata Bija. And all it takes is a little bit of desire. Krishna sees that desire within us, that we want to have this attraction to Krishna. We want to have this, we have this desire, little desire, maybe because of some Pura Janma Sukriti, maybe some pious activities that we have done, or even pious activities that our ancestors have done, our forefathers have done, and also out of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And, Srila Prabhupada, we know that story of how one of the devotees says, Srila Prabhupada said in the purport that it was through some pious activity that you have performed that you've come to this point. And Srila Prabhupada, and this devotee says, I don't remember doing any pious things. I was not in any position to do any pious activities. Srila Prabhupada said, I have made your good fortune. So it's out of Srila Prabhupada's mercy that we have actually been given this Bhakti Lata Bija. And by their association, the dormant love is awakened. And so that that takes us on to this next point. we not only are given the seed of bhakti, but we are also given a responsibility. And what is that responsibility? And the next verse, and the other verse that is cited in this purport, in the purports of these verses, is this one. Bhavat vidha bhagavatas tirtha bhuta swayam vibho tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantastena gadabrutha. My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into the places of pilgrimage. So when I said that we are not only given this seed of bhakti, we're also given a responsibility. What is that responsibility? Can somebody tell me what was, besides the internal reasons that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, what were the other reasons to why? What are one of the external reasons? There's two that I'm thinking of. What are the external reasons that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came? Somebody can unmute themselves and say.
Spread the Harinam Sankirtan movement.
Yes. And then what else did he do? What else did he do? He came down as a devotee because.
Excuse me, Mataji, to liberate the fallen souls from this material.
Yes. And also, wasn't he the example of how a devotee needs to be? Didn't he show us what a devotee has to be like? Wasn't he the example? Srila Prabhupada explains that, Bhagavad Gita is first, it's the, preliminary, and then the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam tells us about the lives of the devotees, gives us the stories of the pastimes of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Bhagavata, Chaitanya Charitamrita. It shows us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his actions, shows us how a devotee is supposed to behave. What is the devotee's responsibility? And, and so my husband always chants this verse from Sri Lakshmi Narsimha Karavalamba Stotram. And it goes just like this. Samsara Sagara Vishala Karala Kala Nakra Graha Grasana Nigraha Vigrahasya Vyagrasya Raga Rasanormini Piditasya Lakshmi Nrsimha Mamadehi Karavalambham. In this huge ocean, samsara sagar of material existence, where time, like a crocodile, devours everything, my life too is being eaten away like Rahu devours the moon. My senses, being engrossed in the waves of raga, etc., lust, anger, greed, is squeezing my life away. O Lakshmi Nrsimha, please give me your refuge by holding me with your divine hands. Now, the reason why this verse came to mind was I was thinking about these waves. And, these last couple of days, I have been very much affected by the passing of Kadamba Swami Maharaj, by Madana Mohini Mataji. And as I was thinking about it, these are like these waves that keep hitting us. These waves that keep tossing us are like these different disturbances that come in our devotional service. It's also, so many of our Gurujan, senior disciples are leaving, and things seem to be happening much more quicker. Things are happening faster. When we're in the ocean, and I'll explain why this verse particularly stuck to me. When we're in the ocean and we're a little bit out of our depths, we're trying to stand in the ocean and the wave hits us. If the wave comes and there's a gap between the waves, we're able to stand up, kind of right ourselves. But what happens when the waves keep coming? The waves keep coming one after the other, one after the other. What happens? What happens to us? Can somebody tell me what happens? You're in the ocean, the waves keep coming. What happens?
He will go into the ocean. Ocean
You
sucks the
get,
person.
it's, yes, you fall. It just starts dragging you under. And and these incidents that come to my mind, it was reminding me of those waves. And it was reminding me that, like in this verse, our days are passing by. Our days are passing by. Time is fleeting. Time is running away. And the Bhagavatam explains to us that how, that we understand that as each day progresses, we're getting closer and closer to death. When we see such stalwart devotees like this passing, we realize that time is of the essence. We don't have time. We don't have time to be just waiting. We don't waiting, W-A-D-I-N-G, waiting. We don't have time to just be treading water in the ocean. We have to become strong swimmers. And this, reminds me, as I said, what is the responsibility of a devotee? Now, particularly this verse, the second verse that I quoted about this verse is, and I don't know if I explained where this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but this verse about these devotees are greater than holy places because they bring the holy places with them. They purify these places. And this was happening in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vidura has just returned from his Tirtha Yatra. He left the Kaurava family because he was insulted by Duryodhana. So he comes back and Yudhishthira Maharaj greets him. And this is the verse that he says to him. This is the verse that he greets him with. It says, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. And this, my dear brothers and sisters, is the responsibility of the devotees. We can't tread water anymore. I will admit to this, that I have been holding on to my spiritual master's holy feet. How? It should be in desperation, yes, but not as a burden. In other words, it's our responsibility at this point to take our devotion, to take our bhakti, take it into our hands. Take it into our hands, and we are the ones that need to do the swimming. As we go from place to place, as we increase our devotion, we are expected to start to learn to swim in this ocean. Okay, and so far we have been carried by our Guru Maharajas. We have been carried by Srila Prabhupada. We have been carried by their mercy. But now it's our responsibility to put it forward, to pay it forward. And how do we pay that mercy? As I said, Caitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining to us, or is giving us the example of how a devotee is supposed to behave. So now he's saying, you become that devotee. And this is how I felt these verses for myself. He was saying to me, you become that devotee. You become that devotee who carries the Lord within your heart. You become that devotee that can purify a place, and how do we purify our place? Not by our presence. It's not because we're there. It's because we're carrying the Lord within our heart. And how do we carry the Lord within our heart? And Srila Prabhupada says this in the purport. It says, the special in the purport of Bhagavad Gita, as it is 8:14, the special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Advaitachari who told Caitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan. So that is how we can pay it forward. We have to take the responsibility of our devotion into our own hands. We cannot be a burden on our Guru Maharajas, on Srila Prabhupada. You know, again, my analogies. It's almost like we are running a relay race. You know, how many know about a relay race? Does anybody know how a relay race works? Can somebody unmute themselves and tell me, how does a relay race work? Does anybody know? With the baton?
It goes in circle, Mataji.
It goes in circle. What about the baton? What about the baton? What are you supposed to do with the baton? The stick, I don't know, maybe my accent is wrong English.
Pass the baton to the next runner. You run your distance and then you pass it to the next.
Yes, you run your distance and you pass it to the next. That is our responsibility as devotees. We need to run. We need to run with that baton. We need to run with our devotional service. We need to run our hearts out. And we need to understand that they are the ones that come before us are dependent on our strength, just as we have been dependent on the strengths of our Guru Maharaj, of our previous acharyas, of Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Prabhupada explains, you know, one incident where he says, don't make me come back. You know, I don't remember, maybe it was my Guru Maharaj who said that, but I don't remember who, that Srila Prabhupada, it is said that the spiritual master comes back for his devotees, that he always comes back. You know, he doesn't stay in the spiritual world. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, but don't make me come back. So we can't be that burden. We have to help the mission. Again, Caitanya Bhagavata Swami comes to my mind, talking about the mission. What is that mission? Our mission, I feel, and this is for me, is not to be that burden. It is to carry that baton. We have to run that race. We have to pass that baton, pass that devotion, pass that bhakti, pass that presence of the Punya Kshetras, of those Tirthas, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Krishna, pass it on by our behavior, by our sadhana, yes, but that is not enough. Pass that baton to the next person. The stronger and the faster that we can run, then the easier it will be for the next person to run his leg. So we have to remember we are all connected. And as we, how do we do this? You know, in the purports of the verse about, you know, the devotees being bringing the holy places with them, Srila Prabhupada explains that the personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies. And just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within space, similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in the electric bulb. We are those bulbs, my dear devotees. We are those bulbs that can light up the place that we are. And how do we do that? Is we do that by remembering the Lord. And, you know, and in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us so many examples of how we can remember him. And, you know, and for me particularly, as you know, I live in an extended family, have a lot of family members. And I can say personally that even in any kind of a material sense, or that relationships, and again, the relationships are what's important. Two things. He says, you know, as I said, as I read from the purport, it doesn't matter what your position is. You do not have to be a guru. You do not have to be a sannyasi. You do not have to be A, B, C, D. You don't even have to be perfect. And that's the amazing thing. We do not have to be perfect, but we have to do our best. We have to be sincere, we have to be strong, and we have to have a strong desire. And we have to be grateful and remember what our gurus have given us. We have that example of the Kurma Brahmana and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he wanted to follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu I want to leave every responsibility and I want to come with you. Did he say, yes, come with me? Come leave your responsibilities and come with me? No, he told him, stay where you are. He said, chant the holy names, share what you have with everybody, tell about Krishna. That is how we carry Krishna on our house. That is how we purify that place. That is how I see these verses. The first part was about the Bhakti Lata Bij, the creeper of devotional service that the spiritual master has given us, that awakens that dormant love within our hearts. The second part is our responsibilities as devotees. Let's not be a burden anymore. Let's not add to the pressures that our Guru Maharajas are going on. Let us be that devotee. Let us be that person who can become the strong swimmer. You know, when the lifeguard comes out to save you're drowning, somebody's drowning in the ocean, the lifeguard is actually putting his life in danger when he comes to save somebody. I don't know how many people realize that. My son was a lifeguard. But the thing is that when somebody is drowning, he completely has no concept of what's going on. His only thought is to save himself. So he's just floundering in the ocean. When somebody comes to save him, what happens? He can grab onto the person who's trying to save him in such a way that the person himself will drown. If we don't become a strong lifeguard, we will be pulled down. We will get pulled down by Maya. We'll get pulled down by the waves. We'll be pulled down by other people. And so we have to be a strong lifeguard. And we can't be that burden. We have to become the strong swimmers in this ocean of material existence. We have to become the strong swimmers so we do not pull down our spiritual masters. We have to be the strong swimmers so we can pass on that baton. I use a lot of analogies. I don't know, it just comes as examples for me because that's how it sticks to my mind. And I hope it makes some sense to you guys. I'm so sorry that I sometimes ramble, but please, please forgive me. But I'm trying to make this point of explaining not only to you, but also to reinforce for myself the responsibility that I have for our spiritual master. And, you know, as I said, what really affected me very much, I think many of you might have seen the Kadamba Swami Maharaj's last message. And a couple of things stuck out to me, which I noted about this. And he explains a couple of things. You know, for me, it was a wake-up call, a very strong wake-up call. And he says, through thick and thin, when all is blissful, when all is struggle, do not waver. Do not waver. You got the greatest treasure. You have the real wealth. And these words really struck me. Treasure it, relish it, cherish it. Hold it close. Hold it close. Don't become slack, neglectful. Hold it close. And what did he give us? What did Srila Prabhupada give us? He gave us the 4 regulative principles, and he gave us the chanting or 16 rounds. But those are just the basics, but they're the most important also. We have to be using those. And he says, chant every day, hear every day, carve these principles in stone. Let them be there every day. Your life will be wonderful. So, you know, the fundamental tenets of the Krishna consciousness movement, what Srila Prabhupada gave us, which are chanting our 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, they are there for us to strengthen ourselves. They are there, the exercises. And we may not be strong. That's, you know, we know where we are. We ourselves know where we are. You know, when you first learn to swim, when you're first going to learn to swim, do you immediately jump into the ocean and just start swimming? How does it start? How does one start swimming? I don't know if anybody's learning how to swim or knows children who learn how to swim. What's the first thing they tell you to do? Do you know? Does anybody know? They have you hold onto the edge and they make you blow bubbles. You're still holding on, but you're blowing bubbles and you're kicking your feet. You don't let go, but you're kicking your feet. So similarly, we have, as we're swimming, these basic tenets that Srila Prabhupada has given us, chanting our rounds and following the 4 regulated principles, are basically those things: blowing water and kicking our feet. That's where it starts. But you can't just keep holding on to that bank, that edge of the pool, right? You can't keep holding on to the material world. You have to kick those feet and you have to learn how to breathe really, really well. Once you're able to do that slowly and steadily, you can start to swim. And as you swim more and more, as you practice more and more, as you strengthen all those different muscles that are part of devotional service, reading, chanting, following the 4 regulated principles, following the austerities, all these different things are added to strengthen our swimming, in the samsara sagara. And we need to take that responsibility upon ourselves. And we need to realize that without our effort, we cannot be saved. We cannot expect them to drag us along forever. We cannot expect them to save us all the time, because that's, first of all, it's not fair. And where is the gratitude, right? This is how we show our gratitude to our spiritual masters, by paying it forward. As we go through our responsibilities, we have very many responsibilities. Many of us are grihastas, many of us are working outside of the home. There's so many responsibilities we have. And what can sustain us is the association. So the other point that I want to make is, not only is our sadhana important, but also we are a movement. We are a personal movement. We are a movement of relationships. Again, another point that Srila Prabhupada always talks about. You show your love for me, by how you cooperate with each other. A lot of times we hear these, little sayings that Srila Prabhupada says, and we just kind of, oh yeah, relationships. We quote so many things. We quote so many verses. We quote so many references. But are we imbibing that mood of devotion? Because the mood of devotion does not mean devotion just for Srila Prabhupada. It doesn't mean the mood of devotion just for our spiritual masters or just for our brothers and sisters. It's a mood of devotion, is love for everyone and everything. So we are a movement of relationships. We are all floundering. We're all at different places on our devotional service. Number one thing, which I always tell myself, is don't compare myself. Sometimes we can compare ourselves in a way that makes us proud, or we may just compare ourselves in a way that makes us feel depressed and dejected, like I'll never get there. So comparison in that sense is not good. But seeing somebody's example and wanting to strive to be like that, that is something that we can take. That is something that we need to do. As I said, we are a movement of relationships, how we treat each other, how we are there for each other, how we understand the failings of how we understand our shortcomings, the shortcomings of others, how we are compassionate. What is this? Hari Nama Ruchi, Jiva Daya, Vaishnava Seva. So these are the 3 main things that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about: chanting the holy name, praying with our heart and soul that we can be the devotees that our spiritual masters want us to be, praying that Krishna will put us in his service, and he is putting us in his service. Every time we come in a contact with some other living entity, some other personality, whether he's a devotee or not a devotee, if we show that compassion by sharing Krishna consciousness, or maybe even just exemplifying Krishna consciousness. There are many times that we can't share Krishna consciousness openly. People may not be open to it. But if we behave like Caitanya Mahaprabhu expected us to behave as devotees, that in itself will draw some towards Krishna. And Vaishnava Seva. Vaishnava Seva does not mean just to serve the spiritual master. It does not mean just physical service. Vaishnava Seva means being there for our other brothers and sisters, for anybody who needs a helping hand, an open heart, a soft shoulder. This is what Jiva Daya means, and Vaishnava Seva. As we can be there for each other, supporting each other. And so many times, and I can attest to this fact, so many realizations have been kicking in for me these last this past year, because of so many things that are going on. Many times we can get caught up in the politics of ISKCON. And our responsibility as devotees is to get involved with the heart of ISKCON. It is to carry forth Srila Prabhupada's heart. Srila Prabhupada's heart of love and devotion, not only to the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, but also to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and also to our brothers and sisters, and to all the living entities. So, as I said, my reflections today are about that desire to imbibe to imbibe the example of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, to fulfill his mission by becoming that devotee that he exemplified, by showing compassion to all that I meet, by being the example of a pure devotee that will attract someone to Krishna and say, if this person can be like this, that's really sweet. I want to be like them. When I see my spiritual master and I see what he does for me, what lengths he goes to, and I'm thinking, wow, I want to be like him. And that's the kind of thing that we want to be able to do. We want to be able to inspire somebody, not by becoming a Sanskrit scholar, which is good, not just by becoming an expert in deity worship or expert in ABCD. We want to be an expert in bhakti. We want to be an expert in love. We want to be an expert in opening the heart and sharing Krishna consciousness heart to heart. As I said, a lot of times, there's so many temptations out there. And as I say, this, I don't know if what I say makes sense to you all. But for me, when I read something and when I listen to a lot of classes, I listen to, do a lot of reading. But you know what? Listening to classes and doing all that reading is not enough if it does not transform our heart. So that is the most important thing about devotion. It has to transform our heart. And just recently, the other day, when I was at the temple, Javida Prabhu was quoting a verse. And, there are so many temptations out there. I can tell you right now, there's so many things. Oh, it's so cold. I don't want to get up this morning. Just 5 more minutes. I don't want to get up. It's so dark. I don't want to get up. Or, oh man, that ice cream looks really good, but it's not prasadam. Or, well, it's just one movie. It's not that big of a deal. There's so many temptations out there, I can tell you. And so I was telling Dravid, he quoted this verse, and I told him, Prabhu, please tell me where this verse is, because this is the verse, this is the prayer that I need to chant every day when I get up. because there are so many temptations. Even Jesus Christ himself had so many temptations. And this is the verse I want to share with you today. It's from Madhya Chaitanya Charitamrita 22:16. It's Kamadinam Katina Katida Palita Durnideshas Desham Jatamayi na Karunana Rapano Pasanti Utrajaitan Atayadupate Sampratam Labdha Buddhis Tvam Ayata Saranam Abhayam Mam Niyung Shvatma Dasye. The translation reads, O Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Although I have rendered these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even desired to give them up. And this is this line, I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even desired to give them up. O my Lord, O head of the Yadu dynasty. Recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened, and now I am giving them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires, and I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. So this is my prayer. And this is the prayer that I offer to you all, because it is very difficult. And these, as I said in that Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalam Stotram, these waves are going to keep coming. Time is going to keep passing. And this crocodile is eating away our life. And we need to swim. We do not have the luxury of sinking. We have to swim, and we need to pull anybody else who we can with us. And that is my prayer this year. This new year is coming up for us, right? For many of us, Gaur Purnima is New Year. For many of us in different parts of India, the New Year starts in Chaitra Masam in a couple of days. And so my prayer for this year is that I say no to those desires, that my intelligence says no more, and I keep the prize in front of me. You know, what does he say? He says at the end here, he said, you have the greatest treasure. Carve these principles in stone, right? He said, what is this? You are the fortunate ones. You became the heroes. Everything is blessed in the way. A wonderful life you have given. Stay on the path. Don't get lost. And so I request you all, and I request everybody, all of my brothers and sisters in Bhakti Sangha, let's be that light. Let's be that light. Let's not get lost. Let's stay on the pace. Let's stay on the path. And let's cherish it. Let's treasure it. And let's hold it close. Thank you, Hare Krishna. All glories Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments? I think somebody had a quote. I will share the quote on the chat. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. What a beautiful class. I loved your reflections and very emphatic class, Mataji. It's such a fortune to have you on the call every time. You just, I don't know, you just rekindle our devotion, the intensity with which we have to practice our devotion. So thank you so much for accepting our invite and coming and speaking on this call. You make all of us feel enthusiastic every time you come and speak. So we are so grateful that you came today. And thank you for this very, very wonderful class filled with beautiful reflections. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Phanesvari Mataji, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna.
And what Preeti Vilasni Mataji said that you really rekindle our devotion. You remind us that just don't waste time and move forward. And especially when you were quoting about His Holiness Kadam Kanan Swami Maharaj. Yes, his last message is so heart-touching. And reminding us, don't waste this human form of life. And then last Maharaj said that you'll come to me waiting and there is more bliss, more joy.
Yeah.
It looks like, yes, Krishna is right here. Just
Yeah.
I am becoming slackened and complacent in my services, in my chanting. Right. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your beautiful reflections always, that how our spiritual master indulges us. He himself indulges in services and he indulges all his disciples. Very true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, I think so. Anita Mataji is asking for the shloka and verse number, if you can.
Yeah,
say.
Okay, I pasted. Yes, do you have it? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for that really wonderful class. Thank you, Kirtida Mataji, for asking the query on behalf of me. And thank you, Mataji, for sharing the words. I really like the last shloka which you told, which you recited from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I hope I will also recite that every day with all your blessings and prayers. Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru and Gauranga. Such a wonderful reflection, whatever you said, all reflections. And I love this reflection that if one are not proper in our sadhana or in our behavior, how can we just save the other person? So for that, we have to be strong by chanting the Harinam and following regulative principles and reading Shastras, hearing Krishna Katha, and the most important is the devotees association. So I really love that thing, and I'm trying to do all these things, and I hope Krishna will help me to do all these things properly. So it's very, very nice. It's heart-touching to me. And whatever you say, the Kadam Kanan Maharaj told that treasure it, cherish it, and distribute it. But Mataji, I am not, I think that I cannot speak like you guys, even though I do the to my family members and everyone, whatever I understood all these things, I just try to distribute the message of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mataji. So please bless me, or please wish that I can do the same thing and I can make to glorify our Srila Prabhupada to everyone.
And remember, you don't even have, many times just being the example, just being a loving person is enough to bring people to Krishna, right? So you don't even have to speak. If you can draw people just by your behavior,
yes,
how much more, even how they say you tell your kids so many things, but they learn by your example more than by what you say. So let's be the devotee and draw people. So it has nothing to do with knowledge and being able to speak and, just attract people by your behavior.
Yes, Mataji, that's real true, Mataji. And I also I do by myself, and then I try to make my daughters to do the same way. Thank you, Mataji. Very, very nice class.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. As Mataji's were saying, it's such a, you brought so much of emotion. But one thing that struck me when you were saying towards the end, Mataji, I was thinking that, whenever we hear some blasphemy and somebody comes and tell me, what, like, and the mind, or I will say, I don't know who it is in me, that, it's so easy to get into this gossip and this ninda. But at the same time, Prabhupada has built this house or this society with so much of effort. Just if I could have thought that this is my own house and somebody is criticizing my house, would I get the joy that I'm getting it now? somebody is criticizing my father, somebody is criticizing my brother, I would say, hey, stop, don't do it. If only I could have cultivated that emotion for this society, Mataji, I would have been a much more better devotee. So please pray for me, Mataji. Your class was you were saying that examples, whether you were able to relate or not, and passing that baton. Such a wonderful, I will always keep that in my mind, Mataji. So long my weak memory permits me. I just want to thank you again and again and again, Mataji. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, it's all in our hands. It's all in our hands.
Your duties, if anybody have any question, please go ahead.
Mataji, there is a question in chat box by Nitya Narasimha Prabhu. Why devotees suffer with health issues? How devotees can overcome health-related suffering? Please give some spiritual tips.
Okay, why devotees suffer? Well, we know that it could be many reasons. It could be for purification. It could be some kind of result for a reaction for something they've done. In the case of our spiritual masters, for their glorification, right? Because obviously it's for us. So why it happens, it could be many different reasons. And what was the other part? How to overcome? Sorry, I didn't remember what the other part was.
Next is how devotees can overcome health-related sufferings.
Well, when you say how can they overcome health-related sufferings, I'm not really sure what you mean. I mean, you have to do the necessary as far as medical, whatever medicine requires. So, we do have to take care of that. And I think a lot of times it depends on the health-related, whatever the health issue is. So I think it's just coming to the point of understanding that this has happened because of something I did in my past life. And so I'm just suffering out of Krishna's mercy, at least I'm not suffering so much. That kind of a state to come to is very difficult. Okay. And, maybe, if you're really, really strong in devotion, can be that. But I think the thing is, we have to go through those health issues. There's not much you can do, right? We take care of the body in any way that we can. And then we ask for assistance when we need. If it's that's what family is here for. We ask for help. And ultimately, we have to ask for help from Krishna. Right? I think the last verse tells us that, because whether this be weaknesses of the soul, in the sense that these types of weaknesses that you get because of of our desires is one level, but then the body level, when you have those weaknesses of body level, then you have to ask for help for that too. Ask for help from family, ask for help from your devotee friends. Sometimes if it's, somebody you need to talk to, then you look for somebody you need to talk to. So it just depends on the health issue. It's kind of a broad question you've asked me. Take care of it maturely like you're supposed to, ask for help when you need it, and then pray to Krishna. And that's what I would say. That would be my answer. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mataji. The reason why I asked Mataji, in my childhood, my parents or some elderly people used to tell that, if you do good, you will leave the body good, means in peaceful way. But after becoming like a devotee, but I see that even within our movement, like many exalted devotees, like especially senior devotees like Srila Prabhupada disciples, like recently our Maharaj also, His Holiness Karam Kanand Maharaj, he was such a wonderful devotee. So many souls got inspiration from him, and still he has to go through such a health issues. Why? Means, okay, we devotees coming to Krishna consciousness, we understand yes, as you said, some answers, but it becomes very difficult to convince to others, like who are beginners in Krishna consciousness. They say that that's the reason I asked this question.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And I think the thing is, I mean, that is, like you said, he is being an example to all of us, right? He is transforming us. And I think for people who are coming newly to Krishna conscious, I think it's maybe difficult to explain. And I think you can explain in this way, it's because he's changing everybody's hearts. I mean, when somebody asked my Guru Maharaj, he said, Guru Maharaj was, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj was in the rehabilitation center, right? And one of the devotees that was there serving him said, but Guru Maharaj, how is it, it's so hard to see you in this rehabilitation center doing all these rehabilitating exercises. It's so difficult to see you. And Guru Maharaj says, how come you're here? Well, how come this is happening to you? And Guru Maharaj explains, says, yeah, but if this doesn't happen, who's going to preach to those people that are in here? Right? So, I mean, I think the only thing that you can do is explain those examples of see how it's for the transformation of people's hearts. That's what it's for. And the thing is, everybody suffers when they die. Okay, I mean, it's not different for anybody, right? Because when you die, what does it say in the Srimad Bhagavatam? How you get this tivra jvara, right? You get this. In the Puranjana story, it talks about what happens to the body, right? That he gets this really high fever, and then all the senses go, he loses his senses, and then he can't breathe. So everybody suffers at death. It's not that you don't suffer. But I think the example that should be given is everybody dies at death. Everybody's going to suffer. But the thing is that even though they're going through their suffering, look at the example that they've set, right? I mean, look at what he did. Look at what Srila Prabhupada did. I mean, to the last moment. Okay, if you are in so much suffering, what can be so good that you're willing to go through that suffering and share this with everybody? That can be pointed out. There must be something here that will allow this person to go through this suffering and still say, this is the treasure. You've got it. Don't lose it. And that's what I would say. I don't know if that helps.
Really, thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much for elaborately answering the question. Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Can I add one thing, Mataji?
Yes. Please give this.
I was hearing one of the interview, like His Holiness Kadam Kanan Maharaj left, right? So been hearing few interviews. So I heard one interview, and there also somebody was asking that how Maharaj, got a bullet shot, and then he suffered from the 4th stage cancer. So, like the reporter, the person who was taking the interview, he was asking, so Maharaj was telling them what he was giving class. And somebody asked him, have you seen God? Have you seen Krishna? Like, have you seen, Maharaj was actually explaining about the smiling face of Krishna, like how Krishna smiles. So he said, have you seen Krishna? Have you seen Krishna's face? So Maharaj said, with all these problems, I don't know whether I've seen Krishna's face, but definitely I've seen Krishna's hand behind everything. So how important it is. It has double meaning, right? That yes, there is Krishna's hand behind everything. And the devotees, if they think like that everything is happening because of Krishna's supreme sweet will, then, the only option we have left is to accept. Whether with happiness or with distress, but we have to accept it. So why not accept it with happiness? Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you, Kirtasani. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much.
Very, very nice, Mataji, Kirti Dasandari Mataji. For everything, Krishna's hand is behind. Yeah, I always think about everything, Mataji. Very, very nice. And dear devotees, if you don't have any question or realization, can we end the call? Thank you very much, Mataji, for your very sweet nectarian class today, and very, very analogy you gave us, you shared us, and we are very grateful to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to, all glories to you, Mataji. We look forward to your association again in future. And if you have any, if you give the permission, we can end the class, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Shri Caitanya Bhagavata ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Her Grace Phanesvari Laxmi Devi Dasi Mataji ki jai.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, dear